Okay, Andrew, it's 9:30 there if you want to go ahead.
Thank you very much, Kira. Hello, everybody, and thank you for joining this webinar. I'm Andrew Campbell-Edie. I'm the Head of Communications and Events at the Irish Centre for Diversity. We recently held the National Diversity and Inclusion Awards 2026 to recognise and celebrate the valuable work being done to progress diversity and inclusion in Ireland. This webinar series has been devised to share the insights and experiences from the sponsor, the winner, and the finalists, so that any learnings can be applied to your organisation or to help with entering the next award cycle. Today's session focuses on the category Public Sector Organisation of the Year Award, which is kindly sponsored by the Bauer Media Group. Bauer Media Group operates some of Ireland's best-known audio and radio brands, including Today FM, News Talk, Spin, Beat, and many others across the country. The business has the mission of enriching the lives of every person in the country, and to achieve this mission, Bauer views inclusion of all people, both in the workplace and their communities, as essential to their way of working and creating content. This is their second time as sponsors of the National Diversity and Inclusion Awards, and the first time as sponsors of this category. Thank you very much to everyone at Bauer for your support, which helps to make the awards possible. Bauer are unable to join us today, so I'm excited to be hosting this webinar on their behalf. Hey, more camera time for me. Before we start, it's important to mention that the Bauer Media team in Ireland, like the other sponsors and the Irish Centre for Diversity, had no part in the judging process and couldn't enter themselves. So I'm very much looking forward to hearing all the stories that are being shared today. We'll shortly hear from the finalists and end with the award winner, wrapping in about an hour. Automatic closed captions are available, and instructions for those who need them will soon be put into the chat function. The session's being recorded, and will be available on the Irish Centre for Diversity website, which is irishcentrefordiversity.ie, or more simply, icfd.ie. Everyone is muted except the panel, but please do share any comments in the chat function. We'd love to know which organisations you're joining us from this morning. There isn't time for Q&As. You may get answers to any follow-up questions that you may have by contacting any of the panelists directly through LinkedIn or any of the other social networks out there. So, the clock's ticking. Without further ado, I'm very pleased to welcome our first finalist, Bus Éireann. They're represented today by Christian Clark. Good morning, Christian.
Sorry, I was on mute there. Hi, Andrew.
Good morning. Christian, could you give us your title? Because I get lost in titles.
So I'm the Bus Éireann Accessibility Manager.
Wonderful. Now, Christian, the judges commented that you have a very values-led approach to inclusion, which has clearly strengthened trust and connection across a large, dispersed workforce. My question to you is, what kinds of moments or feedback really brought your 2025 D&I strategy for life for you? What were some of the highlights?
I think the main thing for us is that it's backed by the CEO and the senior leadership, but it's led and informed by the front line. I mean, we have a hugely diverse workforce. We have 61 nationalities, over 700 non-Irish employees. We have people from all backgrounds within Ireland as well, and it's making sure we open the doors for them to be able to feed back and to tell us what they need and how we can help them and understand how we can really include them in the process of making the business stronger and better for customers and colleagues. I think we launched the Route to Respect program, which brought real structure to it, enabled us to look at it from different perspectives. We started recruiting in a more diverse way, focusing on different communities, and in terms of things like more female workers as well. And it really helped us to improve how we were building on the success of previous years. Again, as I said, it's backed by SLT, which is the key aspect really, and we were keen to showcase some of the individuals in terms of where they come from and how they can drive the business forward. So that could be through podcasts, which we've done, where we're talking about ordinary people with extraordinary lives, or it can be through just being open and honest about your own situation. So I myself have cerebral palsy, and I recently broke my hip, and that's something I make sure I talk about, so people are open to talking about their own issues as well.
Right. I was going to say, I love the whole what we call route to respect. Fantastic initiative. And I love your line that, you know, your work is backed by leadership, but led by the grassroots. And the other point I noted down is 61 nationalities. My God, so everyone that says, you know, anyone that could ever say that Dublin or Ireland isn't multicultural, I mean, there's kind of the proof that it really is. So that's incredible.
I think
and all
it
the
is.
kind of all the inclusive recruitment that you've done is obviously paying fruit there. So
I think so. I mean, you might have noticed from my dulcet tones that I'm not from Dublin. So I think one of the things that attracted me to Bus Air was the people aspect and the feeling of family and community. And they've really welcomed me in a way that's really impressive. I've come from a background in public transport, but I've rarely come into an organisation that's so caring and wants to help people settle in and help them in their journey really. I mean, we also look at it from the customer point of view as well. So we've got the independent travel support service, and that brings about inclusivity because we're training people with additional needs to use our services and open up their horizons. I think that plays a big part of it as well, because it means that they can understand that they can do more than they think in terms of learning to get to jobs or meet up with courses or course mates and open up their horizons so that they're able to get more social equality. And when they see other people doing that, then there's a ripple effect. And what we want to do is make sure we can incorporate that into our recruitment as well. So we're making sure that our recruitment is more inclusive and we're targeting community areas. So my team and areas of HR will go out to community events to make sure we say, listen, you might have thought in the past that this wasn't the job for you because you might have an additional need or you might come from a different background, but we want as diverse a group as possible, and we want to make sure that we're growing like society's growing and make sure everyone's represented, because if we represent our customers, then we can deal with their needs more effectively.
Perfect. I mean, it sounds like you're doing a great job of representing society, which is what inclusion is all about. And the podcast idea, fantastic, for reaching, as the judges said, your dispersed workforce. So kudos to whoever thought of that idea. So excellent.
I'll give Linda Allen a full.
Linda, okay.
That was her. So I think that's the key. It's a smorgasbord. So you need to have different horses for courses and make sure that you reach different people in different ways. Because some people like to read things, some people like to engage online with our online message functions. Some people prefer a chat over a cup of tea. We always find if we can get chocolates and guide dogs in, then we're going to get more people to come and see us. So if you're coming for the dogs, great. I'll grab you and I'll give you information while you're there.
Bribe them. If all else fails,
absolutely.
Bribe them.
Absolutely. I'm not above it.
Right. Christian, thank you very much. I'm going to move on to our next finalist, which is Aideen Murphy, and he's with us today to speak on behalf of the finalist, National Treasury Management Agency, NTMA. So very welcome to you, Aideen.
Hi, Andrew.
Could you give us your title, because I haven't got that written down. I just want to give people an idea of.
Of course. Thanks, Andrew. Hi, everyone. Yeah, my name is Aideen and I'm the EDI and Wellbeing Manager at the NTMA.
Wonderful. Now, Aideen, the judges commended you for driving a shared sense of belonging and embedding EDI across strategy, well-being, and the ESGs, which are environmental, social, and governance. So huge amount of work being done there. My question is, how or where do you see the sense of belonging showing up most clearly?
Mm.
Because you've put
Yeah.
a lot of work into that whole belonging piece. So how does that land on the ground?
Yeah. I think the first thing to probably mention is our definition of belonging. And I think that's probably key in terms of how we approach the work that we do. So, you know, we've defined belonging as every colleague feeling valued and safe and heard and connected. And that's a message that we, you know, continuously speak of and talk to. And in terms of that, then every colleague has the opportunity to, I suppose, positively impact the experience of another throughout the working day. So that's the kind of underlying messaging around our culture of inclusion and belonging. Where it shows up most clearly, and there's probably a lot of spaces that it does, I suppose one of the areas will be our employee resource groups, and their role there is to, you know, create awareness and connection, which works really, really well. And we also value those groups as a group, like as strategic partners. And the listening piece for us comes in really strongly there. So they are advisors to us, and we gather feedback from them. They are, as mentioned, the boots on the ground there that Christian mentioned, in terms of our listening piece. And so that culture and sense of belonging is really, really key there. I think from a strategic perspective as well, like we've done a lot of work over the last couple of years in terms of aligning that ESG, the well-being, and the ED&I piece, and particularly valuing well-being as a key driver of inclusion. And what I suppose that alignment does is it has showed our consistency of our approach, both internally and externally, and across ESG, well-being, and ED&I. And with that consistency, we've been able to build trust, of course, which is the foundation of belonging itself. And so that's been a key underpinning of that culture of belonging as well. The shared piece as well, and where it comes up, and there's like so many examples of this. I already mentioned our ERGs that comes through extremely strongly there. It comes up in our leadership piece as well. So that leadership accountability, you know, having the executive sponsors really actively engaged across everything that we're doing. It's not a standalone item. These are pieces that are integrated into our behaviours and into our everyday actions. And that, I suppose, role modelling from senior leadership, their engagement with our inclusive leadership programmes and learning, and then how they're demonstrating that and bringing that back to their teams as well, will be of extreme importance in terms of how that belonging shows up as well. Yeah, mostly I think it's in really the everyday behaviours. As I said, every individual has a responsibility, and we can set all the strategy that we want and the frameworks that we want, but it is in those everyday interactions. So, you know, it's around, you know, setting the tone in terms of like hybrid working and leading by example there. Our group of mental health allies are working really strongly across the business to, you know, prevent stigma and open up conversations around that. So yeah, I think it's a number of different strands, Andrew, that all centre around where that shows up across the organisation.
Edine, I love your definition of belonging. I've got safe, heard, connected. I'm sure I've missed one.
Valued.
Of course, the most important. Thank you very much. And I wanted to quickly ask how many, because ERGs are so important across all of your work, how many ERGs do you have?
So we have 4 across ED&I. So we have Gender Matters, LGBT, we have our Disability Advocacy Group, and our Multiculturalism team. And then we have our additional ones like across sustainability, which is our green team. We have volunteering, we have our skills partnership program. And so there's so many, and they all hang under that space of EDI and wellbeing. And if I could just actually mention a story to kind of bring the belonging piece to life, if that's okay. This is one of the Christine and Jen, and they both attended the interview with the judge on this. It's just a wonderful story. So Jen and Christine, they both work in different parts of the business. They would never in their working, I suppose, day-to-day life have the opportunity to collaborate. And as part of the multicultural ERG, we established a culture map downstairs, so it's really visible. And the purpose of that is for colleagues to pin a flag that they're really proud of on the wall. We launched that map the year before last, and Christine and Jen, both from China, met at the map for the first time ever. They've become firm friends. They ended up co-authoring and illustrating a children's book, and they then sold that book to colleagues and raised thousands of euro for the National Children's Hospital. So just a wonderful story and a really great example of that sense of belonging and that those initiatives and the connections that they can create.
Yeah, that connection piece is so important, and as you illustrated, it can be done so simply, I suppose,
Yeah.
with without a huge budget, but the impact of it is huge. So
Yeah.
great to hear. Thank you very much for sharing that. Next up, we have the SEAI, and with us we've got Jenny Mayer. Did I say that right? I always get that wrong when I'm in Ireland. So is it Mayer or Ma?
That's no problem. It's Mar, Jenny
Ma,
Mar.
sorry.
So I'm the head of HR and organizational development in the SEI. I'm delighted to be here this morning.
Oh, thank you very much, Jenny, and thank you for the correction.
No problem.
Now, the judges mentioned that your data-informed diversity inclusion journey has helped inclusion become part of everyday working life at SEAI. So my question to you is, can you tell us more about this? What have been some key data-driven decisions? Who put that together?
Absolutely,
I
Andrew.
did.
No, that's a great question. So I'm thrilled to be here this morning. So I'm representing the SEI EDI committee. So I have a mouthful of acronyms this morning. So I suppose I'll just put that in context. So SEI are, trying to support everybody to come on Ireland's energy transition. So I suppose key to that is bringing everyone along the journey. So my role is obviously internally focused, but our EDI strategy is obviously very much internal and external focused. So we want to take a lot of actions for our colleagues. We want to take a lot of actions for key stakeholders and service users to bring everyone along that energy transition journey. So we started our EDI activities over a decade ago and had our first EDI strategy in about 2019. So we wanted to really see the impact of all the actions that the people in the committee were taking. So we partnered with the Irish Centre for Diversity to look at their accreditation process. So in 2022, we achieved bronze accreditation, silver accreditation in 2023, and then we're re-accredited in 2024. So each step along the way, we have improved and shown a lot of progress. So just in terms of some areas that we've progressed really well in are around the policy and practice. So we went from, I have to look at my notes here to get the percentages right, the 42% to 72% around the policy and practices area. And then the recording and monitoring area went from 40 to 67%. So I suppose that really shows we are using the data and we're, it's well accredited data. So what we did then to use that data for driving decisions is we shared the results across the organisation and we committed to action. So I'll highlight just a few of the specific actions. As some of the other presenters have said, there's a raft of areas that we're covering, but I'll just focus on a few. So recruitment, we started gathering further applicant data, totally separated from the recruitment process. So we wanted to see where there are barriers, where there are underrepresented groups. So as a result of that data gathering, then we worked with the Open Doors initiative to utilise their jobs board to reach a wider audience. We appointed access officers, really highlighted that we want to make sure people are accommodated during the recruitment process. And we also updated our role requirements to have more focus on lived experience rather than just focus purely on educational attainment. Then another area was around the gender pay gap. So we've taken a lot of structural activities to ensure that that gap is closed. So we went from 14.8% in 2020, having that to 7.4% in 2025. So a lot of the areas around that were really putting things in place to enable people to progress in the workplace. Flexibility is key, trust is key. We've a lot of really great expert employees. We want to make flexibility available to them all. We also looked at putting structure coaching in place with Platform 55 to enable people returning from maternity leave. And then we also encourage lots of people to avail of family leave. I myself can say, you know, it's the one organisation that I've ever been able to avail of parental leave at a senior level. So it's fantastic. And we also looked at data and saw not a lot of our male colleagues at a senior level were availing of parental leave. So we encourage them to do so and role model that. And we've seen the impact of that. Then people across the organisation are availing of different types of family leave. So it's become more the norm. Finally, one area that came up in the results was how do people report a concern or address a concern? So people felt maybe uncomfortable or not knowing how to do that. This was something that came from the survey results. So we did a lot around refreshing the policies, making it easier, making it simpler, doing workshops, practical workshops, so that people can really role play out if somebody behaves inappropriately or says something inappropriate. How do they address it, and how are they supported to do so? So we put designated contact people in place so people can address it informally. Oftentimes people don't really want to come to HR or formalize it. So we want to make sure there was a raft of avenues people could really make it a safe and welcoming place to work, that, you know, inappropriate behavior, thankfully there's not that much of it, but just that people, we can nip it in the bud and really address it. So I'm conscious also, we're talking about data-driven kind of insights, but I always come at it from a human point of view. So every bit of data is, you know, an insight that a person's given us. So what we really want to do is make sure that it is, as others have said, it's a safe, welcoming, inclusive place to work. Our EDI committee is a fantastic committee, and we have a lot of different core values in SEI, but I would really say that that committee is, you know, very passionate and courageous and really brings those values of SEI to life to really continue to improve our EDI journey and how we progress that EDI journey for SEI. And again, not acronyms, but hopefully they all make sense.
Yeah, complete sense, Jenny. Thank you very much for that. And you've outlined perfectly the value of data and how to use it positively. And it sounds like you've done all the work kind of behind the scenes, the necessary work that creates the culture of trust that the data is going to be used positively. So I've taken loads of notes, and I'm sure anybody watching this webinar will eat all of that up. Thank you very much for that. We need to move on to our next finalist, which is Grania Meehan from South Dublin County Council. More acronyms, SDCC.
Yes, that's right.
Grania, good morning to you.
Good morning to you, Andrew.
Grania, could you give us your title?
Yeah, my title is Equality Officer here in S2CC. I often fall into the trap of going at 2CCC, so I'm pleased I didn't do it just there.
So thank you very much. Okay, so the judges were especially impressed that South Dublin County Council is now majority female. I don't know why that's remarkable, but it is. We all know reasons why it is. So firstly, congratulations on that. And then can you tell me more about what this means culturally and symbolically?
Yeah. That's definitely something that we're really proud of. South Dublin County Council were the first and only county council to have a majority female council. At the moment, we actually have had 2 resignations recently, so now we're gender balanced, but we're still very proud of that as well. So I suppose just to give a bit of context about it all, in terms of our work, South Dublin County Council is one of the 4 local authorities in the Dublin region, and we serve a population of over 300,000 people through a range of different services, from road to housing, parks, playgrounds, cycling routes, lots of different things that we offer. So I suppose our services shape a lot of the social and environmental environment that people live in here. And we were talking about the councillors, so we provide that platform for local democracy with 40 councillors across 7 different electoral areas here. In Lucan, actually, the electoral area there has 5 councillors, and all of those councillors are women. So that's something else that we're really proud of too. I suppose the role of the councillor is to, be the policy making arm of the council and to really be that voice of people that they represent in the council, and to work alongside it to try and make the environment that people live in a better place to live in. So they're really important, and I'll touch more on it later, but that really kind of speak to why it's so important that if we don't have women in the council, of course, then we're not representing half of the population that we serve, and those issues have been brought into the county council and then raised and responded to. So it's really, really significant. Looking at our staff, we have over 1,400 staff here in the county council, and a 2025 gender pay gap report showed that the average earning of women in the county council are 10% higher than that of men. So things are looking quite positive. And women also hold over 50% of middle management positions here. And we are seeing progress in senior management, with 3 senior positions held by women. And last year, a woman took up the portfolio of housing, which I suppose we could argue is one of the most important portfolios that we have here in the county council. So we're just really pleased with all the progress that we're seeing here. And, you know, working here in the county council is really inspirational for me to see women progressing and taking up really important portfolios. So I'm very inspired every day myself. Just to go back to, I suppose, the majority female county council, that, you know, that's not something that's happened overnight. There's been a lot of work and support that's had to go into that. And one of the structures that we have in place is called the Women Caucus. And that is an apolitical structure which 19 councillors sit on at the moment. And it's really, I suppose, a space where both former and current councillors offer mentoring and peer support to each other, and, you know, share knowledge and experience that they've had in the political role, and really, I suppose, talk about, you know, how you get into politics, but also importantly, I suppose, each day in politics. We see that that's one of the big issues, women staying in politics, you know, and what are the barriers to that. And that has been identified through research and is summarised in the 5 C's. And I'll have to make sure I remember them all accurately, but childcare, cash, culture, confidence, and have my notes here. So I'll just see if I can remember the last one, candidate selection. So the caucus would really, I suppose, look at how they can challenge those barriers. And one thing that they do is we provide in the county council a budget to the caucus for training around things that they think are necessary. So, for example, maybe media engagement or public speaking, things like that. There is also payment for being a councillor. That's, I suppose, a wider support that's put in place that's available to everybody, but that's really looking at the cash issue. I met a councillor yesterday and we're talking about things that have been game changers for women councillors over the last couple of years, and she was talking about maternity pay has been so important, that wasn't there when she first became a councillor. And also hybrid had been such a massive game changer, particularly around issues like childcare, you know, and being able to balance responsibilities like care and work. So now they can attend meetings from home and they have a bit more flexibility around that. So there's a lot of different things that are in place now to support it. At the moment, Mayor is actually a woman, Councillor Pamela Kearns, but she isn't the first women mayor that we've had, so we're really proud of that we're seeing this consistency. She's not the exception there. She's another woman following in the line of women mayor that we've had, so it's we're really pleased with that as well. So I suppose to come back to your question about why it's all so significant, you know, I always go back to that line of we can't be what we can't see, you know, that role modelling is so important, that visibility is so important. The councillor that I mentioned, she was talking about how for her it's so significant to see women councillors from different backgrounds, you know, all kinds of walks of life in terms of class and diversity, and, you know, women, as I said, are carers, mothers, and who are succeeding and sharing their expertise around the support that we have here. So it's very symbolic and very culturally embedded here, and we're really proud of it.
Rightly so. Gráinne, thank you very much for that. And I love you just encapsulated everything about one of my favorite hashtags, and it shouldn't just be a hashtag, but, you know, representation matters. And you've just summed it all up perfectly. And I'm sure your LinkedIn is going to be on fire with people wanting to know more about how the council achieved this amazing, amazing milestone of majority female. And I have to go back before we go on to our next one. I have to go back and just correct myself. I made light of the achievement of I was saying that it wasn't remarkable. Of course it's remarkable. So what I was meaning to say is that wouldn't it be great that we're in a world, at the perfect world, which hopefully isn't too far off, where things like this are not remarkable. But yes, absolutely, every praise for reaching that milestone already and for leading the way and showing how it's done. So just wanted to correct that before we move on. Before we move on to our next finalist, which is Avril Hutch, and she's joining us today from University College Cork. I was going to shorthand it to UCC, which is what everyone knows it, but I have to be formal. Have to give it its full. So Avril, very welcome to you today. Can you give us your title?
Thanks very much, Andrew. My title is Director of Equality, Diversity and Inclusion.
Wonderful. So lots of EDIs in today, which is great. Now the judges commented that your nomination. Oh, sorry, I should say that you were highly commended in the awards, and the judges commented that you were highly commended for the great strides that you've made with visible initiatives such as Women on Walls. Now, my question, well, first of all, congratulations being highly commended. Then my question is, how does this sort of initiative help to reinforce belonging and leadership for staff and students at UCC?
Thanks, Andrew. Well, first to say thank you for the recognition. We were absolutely delighted with being highly commended, and everybody thoroughly enjoyed the award ceremony as well. So well done to you and the team. It was a great evening. In terms of our own work here in UCC, so we have an EDI framework which was launched in 2024 called Belonging at UCC. So we've heard everyone talking about belonging, and that framework helps, I suppose, set out our plan for the next 4 years. And as part of that, we did an all-staff consultation, and over 1,600 staff completed that. We also engaged with our students, and we represent an organisation that has 26,000 students and 4,000 staff, so we're like a small village. And there was obviously a breadth of interests and needs that came across in that survey, and we do everything from education, training and policy and the things that everyone else has talked about. But I suppose the Beacon project that you highlighted, Women on Walls, is particularly interesting to people because we are a very old institution. We were established in the 1840s, around the time of the Irish famine, and we have some really striking heritage buildings, and one of those is the Quad, and within that there's a room called the Aula Maxima, and that typically is where portraits of presidents hang. We have never had a female president. We hope we'll have one at some point. But in that room, which is the most important room on our campus, we had 17 portraits of men. And all white men as well. And when we conducted our consultations or in surveys, or when people attended events in that room, some of the feedback that they gave is that they didn't see themselves. And you talked about representation mattering, and it does matter. So whether you're sitting in that room taking an exam or you're there for an event and you don't see yourself reflected on those walls, that was something that we really wanted to tackle. So we had done some other work on built environments in previous years. So we have renamed other buildings after female leaders and rooms as well. And we were delighted that Accenture partnered with us on this project in the Aula Maxima. So we joined Accenture's Women on Walls in 2024. We're the 4th chapter of that campaign. We're the first regional chapter. And in 2024, we issued a call to the public for nominations. And we were thrilled that we got over 600 nominations. That'll tell you how many incredible women there are out there. And it was through an intersectional lens. So we wanted to ensure that disability, race, ethnicity, class, etc., were represented across the cohort of women that were selected. And we had a selection committee, and 11 incredible women were selected through that process. And then over the course of a year, 4 portraits were created. 3 of individuals and a group portrait of 8 women. And just to give you a sense of who those women were, so we had Bridget Carmody, who leads the Cork Women Travellers Network. We have Katrina Toomey, who is a lead in the Cork Penny Dinners, Dola Toomey, and Mary Crilly from the Cork Sexual Violence Centre, Dr. Evelyn Grant, who is a pioneer, and you know her from Lyric FM, but she also set up the Cork Pops Orchestra. Dr. Myra Culnan, who was the first female coroner in Cork and was the coroner on the Stardust Inquiry. Dr. Naomi Machete, who works with the Cork Migrant Centre and supports people in direct provision. And Dr. Patricia Sheehan, who is a palliative care doctor in Kerry. And then in our individual portraits, we had Edna O'Brien, who you'll know is a historic female writer who was not recognised in her lifetime in Ireland. And that's the first painting of Edna O'Brien in Ireland. And Joanna Reardon, a fantastic sports journalist and advocate for people with disabilities. And then Nan O'Nagel, the founder of the Presentation Order, who obviously advocated for the poor and girls in education. So now we have these incredible portraits up on the wall in the aula, and we had a beautiful unveiling event back in November, and to say the atmosphere was special, it was incredible. All the artists, the subjects, their families, they came in, and everyone who's gone into that room since has said it feels like they were always there. Which is really important, but the stories behind them is now, I suppose, reflecting who we have in our student and our staff population, and people can see someone that looks like them. So that's really important. So that's just one aspect of the work that we do, but I think it has been a landmark campaign, and we are thrilled that Accenture chose to work with us on it.
Wow, what a roll call! That's incredible.
Yeah,
and they're all Cork, linked to Cork in a way.
Yeah, so
Wow.
the called subjects, they had to have links to Munster, the Munster region, and then they had to, I suppose, align with our values as set out in our EDI framework, and I suppose be inspiring to our staff and students as well. So
Well, I'm sure your staff and students and visitors alike are all getting the impact of that. As you said, bringing that representation matters to life in a huge way. And what this initiative also did was showed the power of listening and acting on what you heard. So amazing work there. Thank you very much for sharing all of that, Avril.
thanks,
I've
Andrew.
got to move on now to our next finalist, and our next finalist today is our winner. And they are on post, and they're represented today by Heather Lowry and Danielle Bauscher. Correct me, please do.
Boucher, but
Boucher,
close
sorry.
enough, Andrew.
Apologies. Congratulations on winning this category. Very much. Some of the aspects of the nominations of your nomination that really stood out for the judges is how you've succeeded in implementing so many D&I strategies at scale, and your commitment to having impact in the community also. So my question to you is, can you tell me what you are most proud of in 2025 from all of that?
Oh my God, and we have a presentation. So Ciara, you can pop it up, and it's only just to give us some guidance and to give you guys as much information in the 10 minutes as possible. So let me introduce myself. I'm Heather Lowry. I'm currently the Head of Talent and Organisational Development in An Post. Just to say, it's an honour to be recognised for Public Sector Organisation of the Year. Like the other finalists, we were absolutely thrilled. This means so much to us and the work that we do across the organisation. Thanks to the Irish Centre for Diversity and the Bauer Media Group as well. And I just want to say, you know, it's great to be joined by amazing finalists today. As a previous winner of Advancing Gender Equality, I recommend definitely Grania, Avril. It's yours next year. You have to go for it, and it's amazing hearing those stories. So well done to everyone. So I suppose, look, just one thing you asked me, and it's really hard, but I suppose the big thing for us is that, you know, and if we move on a couple of slides there, I suppose DE&I for us isn't a standalone programme or a set of initiatives focused on minority groups, which it was in the past. And we've been on as people probably know, a very long journey in terms of where we are today. I suppose DEI is built into our purpose. It's built into our behaviours every day to act for the common good and improve the quality of life in Ireland now and for generations to come. And I suppose the one thing that we're incredibly proud of is probably our new DEI strategy, which we launched, I suppose we developed in 2024 and we kicked off in 2025. So it was the first year of our refreshed DEI strategy. It was endorsed by the management board. All the feedback we gathered to put it together, similar to Avril as well. And we set really ambitious targets in there. And we were questioned on the targets and we said, no, we're putting them in there. So the senior management group really, I suppose, knew that they were being held accountable for those particular areas. So in terms of the strategy itself, if we move on to the next slide, it'll just show that it's based on 3 key pillars. And those pillars are accountability and leadership. Again, we believe that everything starts there. They set the tone, influencing all our employees. Our inclusive recruitment and retention, like everyone else on the panel, it's really important for us to reflect the communities we serve. And we recognise that we need to do much more in terms of female in our front line and certainly ethnicity across the organisation. And then finally, then that continuous advancement, updating initiatives, bringing well-being. I think Aideen said it, well-being being such a driver of that belonging. And again, listening ultimately to our people. So I'm going to hand you quickly over to Danielle, who's just going to highlight some of the key pieces, I suppose, internally that we did in relation to the DE&I strategy. And I do have to say we were very ambitious, probably to a fault. But again, you know what, if you're not ambitious, you know, you won't achieve great things. So Danielle, do you want to highlight some of the internal pieces, and then I'll come back and highlight some of our community impact?
Yeah, sure. Thanks so much, Heather, for setting the scene. Ciara, could you move on that slide, please? Great, thanks a million. So one of our biggest achievements is that over 300 of our people managers completed in-person half-day inclusive leadership training in our headquarters, the EXO building. And I have to do a big shout out to our amazing partners, the Irish Centre for Diversity. Guys, you're amazing in helping us with that and facilitating. And a special thanks to Liza Joe G and Michael Lastman for their brilliant and very memorable training. So what we implemented afterwards was a series of inclusive leadership nudges, which were circulated to all attendees to keep that learning from the in-person training front of mind. Also, from a learning perspective, we created a bespoke DEI e-learning curriculum with 7 modules, which are available to all our staff, and they're An Post branded, very interactive and easy to complete on mobile phones. Under inclusive recruitment and retention, we launched our big talent magnet campaign last year to attract high quality talent from a broad range of backgrounds, and also to attract more women to frontline roles. And we're using our new MyHR system to collect lots of really rich DEI data there. And for continuous advancement, we're always developing new policies and improving our existing policies based on employee feedback. We recently launched a new reproductive health policy, which has been really well received. And we continue to promote our mental health support policy, helped by our lovely elephant in the room, Mishnak, who represents our commitment to having open conversations about mental health in the workplace. And we continue to focus on disability inclusion through powerful employee stories, as Christian had mentioned earlier. And we hold an annual disability survey to get the most accurate data we can to support our people as best we can. And we also have sensory toolkits in some of our larger sites. And we did a sensory audit of our headquarters. And I'd like to thank our partners, union partners, and all of our charity partners there for their ongoing support, and onwards and upwards into 2026.
Thanks a million, Danielle. So I suppose, look, overall, the impact you can say is, I suppose our people see clear visibility in terms of us driving that ownership for DE&I. This isn't something that myself and the team own or HR own or whatever. This is all of ours. So that's really important for us. And, you know, our people can see our progress. I'll show you on the next slide in a couple of minutes in terms of, you know, what we've achieved through our 5 years of zero gender pay cap. That was very long. Every year we're waiting for for the one where we don't get 0. So it's really hard to maintain it. Our representation in terms of being up there, a 47% female, a senior management group, or 6.25% in terms of our disability percentage as well. So they're seeing real strong visibility. And I suppose everything from the inside translates outside. And I suppose this is really probably, you know, I'm very passionate about what we do in our communities because we have such a national platform. We have such impact that we can create. And I think really the highlight in terms of our submission was around that where other organisations were stepping back. So for example, with LGBTQ+, not sponsoring gala awards and things like that, ONPUS said, no, let's get more vans out there with pride on the side. Let's actually sponsor the galas. Let's go out and say we're doing it. We did letter to my future self, and then we raised the flag on the GPO. So things like that to say, hey, we're really proud, and you know, more than ever, we want to shine a light on this. The second big thing would be around mental health, again, mirroring what we did on the inside. Again, things that we can do and impact, like, you know, issuing stamps that again are out there in the full public domain. We sponsored art competitions, Where's Liffey Loop, and ultimately the big one was the Green Ribbon campaign. Again, that was 350 plus post offices with the green ribbon in the offices, and then a number of coffee mornings, one which the two of us held ourselves in the GPO. Again, showing that community, look how important ONPUS thinks this is, showing our employees this is how important it is internally. And then I suppose another big thing for us was around, you know, marketing. Our marketing teams do an amazing job. They do some of the elements you see here on the external focus side, but a big one was around our new marketing campaign. We moved from For Our World to Making Better Happen, because that's exactly what we want to do every day. And it was a really concerted, thoughtful process where we wanted to include a child with autism in the ad to show what, I suppose, you know, real life looks like in Ireland in terms of the families that we have. We worked with As I Am to really make sure that that landed as well as it could be. And in addition, then we celebrated our love with a special hello stamp. And again, that was something that came from an employee idea around sign language. And finally, then, I suppose, in terms of our continuous advancement, we do have a wonderful team who are focused on our customers, our vulnerable in society, our minority groups. So again, they focused on rolling out our JAM card. We did the training internal with all our retail offices, financial planning with Ask Paul to support those customers who aren't, I suppose, as au fait with, you know, financial, with apps, with technology, or again, just understanding the changes in society in terms of finances. Our retail staff did the Alone Positive Living program again, which was amazing, thinking about our older, vulnerable customers who actually more than anyone use our post offices on a day-to-day basis just to get that connection in the community. And then we had lots of partnerships in terms of our national literacy program, Business in the Community. We do Time to Read with lovely schools, our Aware, Mental Health Matters, Oxfam, SVP. And again, I think the key message here is where we can influence, like even UNICEF Ireland, we want to influence, we want to show people how important it is, we believe in this. And I suppose where we come in is we got to then make sure our employees know that we believe in this really inside. So I suppose if you want to just jump onto the next slide there, Ciara, for me, I suppose if I was to summarize it in terms of the external impact, I think inclusion, you know, inclusion visible and accessible in every town and community, strength and supports for those vulnerable and marginalised customers. And for me, it was that national representation of LGBTQ+ disability and mental health when other organisations were pulling back. So I think it shows that together our internal and external actions reinforce each other. A more inclusive organisation delivers a more inclusive public service. So that's why it's so close to our heart. And I think really ultimately it's about everything everyone has said there, creating a workplace where people feel they belong, they feel supported, they see visible progress in well-being, opportunities, practices, etc. And it's really not just, you know, stopping, you know, when we do one thing, it's a continuous, you know, every every year, every week, every day. And I think some of the results, good old my friend Copilot did this for me yesterday. I said, what are all the things? And I didn't give it anything that we've achieved. And I suppose this is just an example of some of the things we've done or the impact that we've made this year. More to do. That doesn't mean we're perfect and we don't have things that we need to focus on. But again, I think it's just really grateful for winning this award and showing all our employees who I dedicated it to, because without the frontline people every single day, none of this would matter and the community impact wouldn't be there. So I think that's all from me. So a long-winded way, Andrew, of answering your what was it? It's very hard to
Not
pick
at
one
all.
thing.
Amazing.
But the
Very worthy
strategy.
winners, very clear winners. And God, if anyone talks about scale, I think you've got it there in spades. My God. And wow, I just so many notes from that. But yeah, it sounds like you're just doing everything. But as you say, there's always more to be done. So I think you'll be having conversations with Grania about achieving that whole gender pay gap and, you know, all that kind of thing. So great to see that. We've got 10 minutes to play with. And nobody gets away with an early release here. So I'm going to keep you all for the full time. So I do have some supplementary questions. Jenny, I'd like to return to you if I can. Actually, before I do that, so okay, Jenny, I'm going to ask you what feels more different now compared to a few years before you adopted data-driven decisions?
Oh, thanks very much, Andrew. I suppose it would be, it's hard to put words around it, but it would be more the sense of belonging that we've all talked about. So I suppose where we would see that is kind of people discussing EDI in their everyday life. Like EDI is part and parcel of how we work. It's not a separate thing. It's just how we work and how we think, and that we include people. And I think really using the data to support those kind of actions and initiatives has really driven it to become part and parcel of how we work. Any different activities we look at, we always, you know, look at them through an EDI lens. So whether we're organizing like team days or, you know, department days, you know, we will consider making sure everybody can be included, the location we choose, the food we serve, accessibility, you know, all those type of things.
So it's done as an everyday thing. So it's not a bolt-on, which is the kind of where everybody wants to be. So congratulations for that. Thank you
Thanks.
very much for that. Christian, if you're still around, I have one more question for you. I just very quickly, I wanted to know the podcast that you're doing to reach your team. Is that available? Is that only internal, or is that available to people from outside? Because I'm sure that you're discussing things that, you know, would have benefit to everybody. But sorry if it puts you on the spot.
Oh, that's all right. So it's internal at the moment. We've done our first series of it, if you like, and we're just expanding it now. But I can talk to Linda about it and whether or not it is something they're looking to expand on. I think it's something that
I'm sure it will develop in
it develops, but also it connects with a lot of people because they're used to their podcasts now. If you said to someone, we're gonna talk to you for half an hour about something, they're maybe not as interested. Whereas if you say we've got a podcast, everyone goes, "Oh, I like podcasts." So it's about getting the right people in, really. I think the big thing for us is making sure we get the people who've got a story to tell, and it's sometimes the people who haven't told it before and wouldn't normally tell it, and encouraging that and saying this is an open and safe place, and then that's the gold really of it.
Right. Well, very best wishes for that whole initiative. So thank you very much for that. Avril, I have a question for you. You mentioned at UCC that you're a small village. No way. That's like, I live in a small village and I can tell you we're 300 people. So with the population that you have, that's incredible. That's a town easily. But I wanted to come back to the whole Women on Walls initiative because I'm just completely blown away by it, as the judges were. What reactions or conversations have you noticed since launching that whole initiative? Because I'm sure that must have created so much buzz and so much goodwill and just almost relief that it's there being done and people are being represented and seen and heard in a way that they weren't before.
Yeah, absolutely. I suppose one of the first things that happened was people started saying, when are the next portraits going up? So as soon as the 11 women were unveiled, we got requests from other parts of the campus. So 3 more portraits have actually been unveiled since then, as a knock-on impact, I suppose, of I can see it now, so let's see some more, which is fantastic. So it's spreading, which is, I suppose, what we were hoping. And it's also being led by different parts of the university. So we have had considerable progress in terms of our female leadership. We have an initiative called Athena Swan in the higher education sector, which has been around for 10 years. And since 2018, we've seen an increase in full professors by 17%. So we now have 32% female professors. And we've also seen an increase in chief technical offers from 0% to 25%, and senior lecturers an increase of 38%. So we know that the women are there in terms of representation, but as I said earlier, that intersectional lens is really important. And we've had school tours and different, school groups come in, and it's so amazing when they sit there and say, oh, look, I look like that. Maybe I can be, an astrophysicist, or I can be an engineer, or I can be, a medic, or whatever it might be. But because we've been really careful about who we selected, we also have students with disabilities who come in and say, well, I never thought I could go to university, but look at Joanna Reardon, she's on her 2nd degree. I can do that too. So that, I think, has been some of the most incredible things that I've seen. And I was really struck one day, we were in the aula and Edna O'Brien's nephew came in, and we didn't know that he was going to visit, but he talked about her legacy and, the fact that a university in Ireland had recognised her and what that would have meant to her. And when you're doing paintings posthumously of people, you don't get to know them in the same way. But getting to know Edna, getting to know her life, getting to know the challenges she faced in advocating for women and women's rights and conversations about women's bodies, and being able to have those conversations now, looking up at her portrait in the aula, it's a game changer. And I think, so long as we can tell those stories, and we've all talked about storytelling and people and impact, that's
that's the best impact you can have, isn't it? That
yeah,
you're
absolutely.
making change, and also to students as well, and showing them kind of a way forward and showing that they can be, which is what we all are aiming for. Thank you very much for that, Avril. Okay, we've got 3 minutes, so I am going to wrap up now. So many notes, my God. Something that you've all kind of a theme through all of the talks that you all shared today. Thank you very much for all your sharing, but a common theme was the importance of leadership, and it was great to hear that the point made that there's no silver bullet, there's no one size fits all. Things have to be flexed to fit your employee base, your user base, your people who use your services. So fantastic that that's kind of taken on. And it's great to see that so many of you are working with experts, so people like Open Doors, Platform 55, As I Am. Wonderful that people are realizing, you can't. I was said in another webinar, a great phrase of "you can't boil the ocean." So it's great to realize that it's best to work with experts who know their way around these things and can consult and can lend their expertise. So wonderful. It's also great to see data being used, but used in a really great way, in kind of the perfect way, which is gather the data, listen to it, and then act on it and show you're acting on it, which is so important for the whole psychological piece and making sure that in the future people do volunteer what can be sensitive information about themselves to the team. So amazing work that you're all doing. I have to finish with some more thank yous now. Amazing work being done out there, and I'm so glad that I'm not one of the judges, so I didn't have to make these decisions, but you're all doing incredible work. So thank you to all of you for everything that you're doing to advance diversity and inclusion in workplaces in Ireland. Thank you to the Bauer Media Group for sponsoring this category. Thank you to our finalists, and thank you to the winner, Heather and Danielle. Thank you very much. Thanks to Kira for the essential work behind the scenes, keeping it all running so smoothly. Thank you to the audience for joining us and checking out this recording. This recording will be available for those that want to see it back in a couple of days. So just give us time. I say us, I mean Kira, time to do all the editing and stuff around the edges. In the meantime, do contact us through our website at the Irish Centre for Diversity if there's anything that you've heard that you may want some more information on, or if you want some information about how we can support your D&I journey. And feel free to contact any of the panelists if there's a specific question you wanted around the work that they're doing. That is it. Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you.